Hello, everyone, and a very special hello to all of the Redeemer children who might be watching. We miss seeing you on Sundays. We are looking forward to the day when we all get to gather back together so that we can have our Bible study classes where we can play games, have a drink and biscuit, do some crafts, and laugh a lot. Those days will be coming very soon. But for now, we thought it would be fun to share a Bible story specifically for all the Redeemer children. So I've asked our friend Simon Knightley to read a story out of the Jesus Storybook Bible. If you have the Jesus Storybook Bible, you can follow along at home. The story comes from the sermon text, the Bible message that Will gave to us last Sunday. It's about an event that happened before Jesus was killed on the cross. This is the night before. And it's a story when one of his friends betrayed him. So let's go over to Simon Knightley to hear our Bible story.
Hello, children. I'm going to read you a story this morning called A Dark Night in the Garden. And there are some great pictures here, which I'll hold up so you can see from this story. The wind was picking up now, blowing clouds across the moon, shrouding the garden in darkness. "Stay up with me?" Jesus asked his friends. They said yes and waited under the olive trees, but they were tired and they soon fell asleep. Jesus walked ahead alone into the dark. He needed to talk to his heavenly Father. He knew it was time for him to die. They'd planned it long ago, he and his Father. Jesus was going to take the punishment for all the wrong things anybody had ever done or ever would do. "Papa, Father," Jesus cried, and he fell to the ground. "Is there any other way? Any other way to get your children back, to heal their hearts, to get rid of the poison?" But Jesus knew there was no other way. All the poison of sin was going to have to go into his own heart. God was going to pour into Jesus' heart all the sadness and brokenness in people's hearts. And Jesus was going to let that happen. God was going to pour into Jesus' body all the sickness in people's bodies, and Jesus was going to willingly take that upon himself. God was going to have to blame his son for everything that had gone wrong, and it would crush Jesus. And yet Jesus was willing to do that. But children, there was something else. Something even more horrible than that. When people ran away from God, you see, they lost God. It was what happened when they ran away. Not being close to God was like a punishment, and Jesus was going to take all that punishment. Jesus knew what that meant. He was going to lose his Father, and that, Jesus knew, would break his heart in two. And yet he was prepared to do it all, children. He was willing to do it. He cried. Violent sobs shook Jesus' whole body. And then Jesus went quiet, like a lamb. "I trust you, Papa. I trust you, Father." Jesus said, "Whatever you say, I will do it." See that picture of Jesus there, crying out to his Father in the garden as he was praying? Suddenly, though, through the trees, a glitter of starlight flashed off steel, and into the quiet garden came whispers, muffled voices, clanking metal, and the sounds of boots marching. Jesus stood up. He woke his friends. "Now is the time," he said gently. "Everything that was written about me, what God has been telling his people all through the long years, it's all coming true." And into the night, with burning torches and lanterns, with swords and clubs and armour, they came. An army of soldiers. Judas led them straight to Jesus so that they could arrest him. And Jesus was waiting for them. You see the pictures there, children? The soldiers coming for Jesus. Peter leapt up, took a sword, and tried to defend Jesus. He sliced off a guard's ear. But Jesus immediately touched the guard and healed him. Peter, he said, this is not the way. See, Peter didn't realize that no army, no matter how big it was, could ever arrest Jesus. Not unless Jesus let them, that was. Then Jesus, who had never done anything except love people, was arrested as if he were a criminal. Jesus' friends were afraid, so they ran away and hid in the dark shadows. The guards marched Jesus off and they took him to the leaders. And the leaders put Jesus on trial. "Are you the Son of God?" they asked. "I am," Jesus said. "Who do you think you are to call yourself God? You must die for calling yourself the Son of God." Only the Romans were allowed to kill prisoners, so these leaders made a plan. "We'll tell the Romans, this man wants to be our king, and then they will crucify him." But it would be all right. It was God's plan. "It was for this reason that I was born into the world," Jesus said. And that, children, is the end of that story.